Welcome back to the deep dive. We're back at it today, and we're actually doing something a little bit different this time around. We're opening up the archives, blowing off the literal and metaphorical dust, and just stepping right into a moment in time that is...
Well, it's equal parts chilling, intellectually fascinating.
Right.
Honestly, if we're being real with each other, it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, it really is a rare combination of vibes we have today. Because usually when we look at this kind of material, channeled literature, esoteric philosophy, the heavy stuff, it tends to fall into one of two camps.
Right.
It's either entirely metaphysical, dense, and serious, dealing with the architecture of the universe, or it's purely anecdotal, just ghost stories and weird things bumping in the night. But this session, it manages to be both simultaneously. It grounds the high strangeness in the absolute, almost absurd, mundane. Exactly. And before we get lost in the weeds, or the vegetables, as the case may be, let's set the coordinates for everyone listening. We are looking at session 349 of the Seth Material. Specifically, this is found in the early sessions, book 8, and the date of record is June 28, 1967.
Which is a pretty culturally significant time, obviously. The summer of love.
Oh, massive. The world is completely changing outside. But inside the apartment of Jane Roberts and Rob Butts in Elmira, New York, the vibe is very, very intimate. It's about 11 p.m. on a Wednesday night. It's got that late night, should we go to bed or stay up talking kind of energy.
Yeah, and the cast of characters is important here to really understand the dynamic. You have Jane Roberts, who is the medium. She speaks for the entity known as Seth. You have her husband, Rob, who is usually the diligent scribe, writing down every single word. But tonight, they have company.
Right, witnesses. Bill Macdonnel is there. He's a regular in these early sessions, a friend of the family. And he's brought a friend, Joanie Gilbert. And the context here is crucial for understanding the flow of information, because this wasn't a planned formal session where they sat down at a specific time with a list of prepared questions about the meaning of life.
No, it was entirely spontaneous. The source notes tell us that Jane had been playing audio tapes earlier in the evening. They were listening to a tape from the Murta family out in Chula Vista, California, and another tape Jane had made some time ago for Dr. Instream.
Which is just so relatable. It's the 1967 equivalent of showing your friends a voice note or a video you got on your phone, just sitting around, sharing correspondence, probably drinking coffee or wine, letting the evening unwind. And then suddenly the energy shifts. Jane's consciousness steps back, Seth steps forward, and we are off to the races.
And because it was unscheduled, the logistics were a bit scrambled. This is a detail I love because it makes it feel so real. Rob, who usually takes meticulous verbatim notes in his own shorthand, wasn't prepared at all. He didn't have his pen and paper ready initially. He hadn't planned to work that night.
So Bill Macdonnell, the guest, just starts scribbling furiously to catch the gist of what Seth is saying. Jane is speaking rapidly, her eyes are open, she's active, and Bill is just trying to keep up.
It adds this whole layer of urgency to the text. It feels raw, it's not polished, it's happening right now.
Okay, so before we get into the lettuce, and we are definitely going to get into the lettuce, I need to make sure we handle our housekeeping. We have to be clear about what this is and the rules of the road.
Right, the disclaimer.
Crucial.
Indeed. This podcast will be distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We are here to explore, analyze, and discuss. We aren't here to tell you what to believe, but to show you what the documents say. We are your guides through the source material. And the source material today is dense with implications. We have two very distinct threads running through this conversation.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have a very serious, very specific prediction about death.
A literal chill down the spine.
Yeah. And on the other hand, you have an incredibly specific, bizarrely humorous psychic hit regarding a salad vegetable.
The vegetable incident. I want to start there because it is such a perfect example of how high strangeness often crashes into the totally mundane. So imagine being Joanie Gilbert. You're at your friend's house, you're watching this woman, Jane, go into a trance, and suddenly this voice, this entity looks right at you. You're probably expecting a revelation about your past lives or your destiny or the secrets of the universe.
And instead he drops this line, I'm quoting here, "Our friend here should stay away from lettuce."
Just like that. No preamble at all. Stay away from lettuce.
It's so domestic.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly specific.
Now, if a disembodied entity traveled through time and space to tell me to avoid a specific vegetable, I would have questions. Did he say why? Did he give a medical reason? Like, is she allergic to it? Is it tainted?
Well, he did give a reason, but it wasn't medical in the way a doctor would give it. It was energetic. This is where we get into the mechanics of how Seth views biology and consciousness. He says, quote, "There is overstimulation, reacting upon her system.
Overstimulation, that is fascinating because usually when we think of stimulants, we think of caffeine, sugar, maybe nicotine. We don't think of iceberg lettuce, it's mostly water. How can lettuce be a stimulant?
Right. To us, it seems completely inert. It's the most boring food on the planet. But Seth is pointing out that biochemistry is deeply individual. What is inert for one person might be a massive trigger for another. But look at the consequence he describes. He goes on to say that this reaction does not enable her to correctly perceive the nature of her own experiences.
Man, that is a heavy statement. He's linking diet directly to perception. He's saying the lettuce is making her, what, hallucinate? Or just foggy?
He clarifies, he says, quote, too much stimulation without understanding.
Too much stimulation without understanding. That feels like a profound life lesson wrapped up in a dietary restriction. I mean, it sounds like the definition of anxiety or even a bad psychedelic trip. Or, frankly, just scrolling through social media for too long.
It really is. The implication is that Joanie is having these psychic or internal experiences. Bill actually mentions in the notes that she'd been describing them earlier that evening, but she can't process them. She can't land the plane, so to speak, because her nervous system is jagged. It's over-revved. And the culprit, surprisingly, according to Seth, is the lettuce.
So Seth drops this bomb, stop eating lettuce, it's making you crazy. And then they take a break, the trance lifts, Jane comes back, and presumably everyone looks at Joanie and asks, what is the deal with the lettuce?
And this is the hit. This is the exact moment where the skepticism sort of evaporates in the room. Because if Joanie had said, oh, I don't really eat lettuce, the whole session loses credibility instantly. Or if she said, oh yeah, I have a side salad with dinner, it's way too generic to matter.
Exactly. Anyone could guess that. You eat bread, you drink water, you breathe air.
But Joanie doesn't just say, oh, I eat salad sometimes. She enthusiastically verifies that she has this incredibly specific, super odd habit.
Tell them what she does. I need you to describe the scene because it is just delightful.
Okay, so she eats an entire head of lettuce at a time.
A whole head, like holding it like an apple.
Essentially, yeah. She pulls it apart, but the volume is massive. Like someone else might eat a bag of pretzels or a huge box of candy. She sits there, specifically while watching late-night movies on TV with her mother, and crunches her way through an entire head of lettuce.
That is certainly a texture commitment. It's so voluminous. Can you imagine the sound? Just crunch, crunch, crunch while you're trying to watch a noir film.
And she's done it since she was a little girl. It's a deeply ingrained comfort habit. It's her popcorn.
And the kicker here is that Jane and Ripe didn't know this, right?
Not a clue. They had met Joanie a few times, but think about it. Who brings up their whole head of lettuce snacking habit in casual conversation? It's not something you broadcast at a cocktail party. Hi, I'm Joanie, and I devour heads of lettuce at midnight.
Yeah, that's definitely a need-to-know basis fact. It's one of those weird things we do when we think no one is watching us.
Rhyme actually notes in the transcript that this was a total surprise to them. They considered it a direct hit.
It's the absurdity that makes it convincing, honestly. If Seth had said, you worry too much or you have stomach issues, that's just cold reading. That's generic Barnum statements. But you eat too much lettuce, and it turns out she eats it literally like popcorn. That is specific. That is data.
Right, and it establishes credibility for everything else that follows. If he can see the lettuce, maybe he can see the other things he talks about. But if we peel back the layers, pun intended, it also gives us a fascinating insight into the physical-psychical link.
Let's dig into that, because Seth isn't a dietitian. He's not telling her to stop for calories or vitamins.
No, absolutely not. He's telling her to stop for clarity. We tend to separate our diet from our spiritual or mental clarity. We might think about health, sure, this is good for my heart, this is bad for my waistline, but not about perception. Seth is suggesting that a mundane food item acts as a static generator for her specific frequency. It blocks her understanding.
It makes you wonder what the lettuce is for the rest of us. Like, what mundane thing are we consuming or doing that is creating stimulation without understanding?
Exactly. Maybe for you it's dairy. Maybe it's listening to true crime podcasts right before bed. Maybe it's scrolling social media. It stimulates the system, but provides no real understanding, so it just creates noise.
It forces you to look at your own habits, not just as healthy or unhealthy in a medical sense, but as clarifying or clouding in a consciousness sense.
Is this enabling me to correctly perceive the nature of my own experiences? That's the exact metric Seth is using.
I'm going to be eyeing my salad bar very differently from now on. Is this lettuce? Or is this static? But okay, we have the lettuce, we have the verification. The room is probably laughing, shocked, amazed. But then the session takes a real turn. We move from dietary advice to the mechanics of ghosts.
Yeah, part 2, the cigarette and the ghost. This is where we leave the salad bowl and enter the twilight zone. And for anyone interested in how paranormal perception actually works, this section is absolute gold.
So Bill, the note-taker, asks Seth about a previous event. He says, "Seth, what about your visit to me?"
Yes. Bill asks about a specific instance where he saw an apparition. He wants to know if it was real or if he was just imagining things. Seth confirms it. He says, quote, "All right, here we have a legitimate occasion in which Ruburt projected to your room and I acted as his guide."
Ruburt being Seth's name for Jane. So Jane projected her consciousness and out-of-body experience to Bill's room, and Seth was sort of the chaperone.
Correct. We were both there, Seth says.
But here's the anomaly. Bill saw the apparition, but he saw Seth. He didn't see Jane.
And it gets more complicated than that. Bill mentions that the figure he saw, the Seth figure, was holding a cigarette.
Why is that a problem?
Because of the smoking habits of the individuals involved. Seth, when he is manifesting or when Jane is in trance, is known to enjoy cigars and wine. Jane, in her waking life, smoked cigarettes.
Ah, I see the conflict. If it was Seth, he should have had a cigar. If it was Jane, she should have had a cigarette. But Bill saw Seth with a cigarette. It's a mix-and-match ghost, like a continuity error in the haunting.
Exactly. And a skeptic would look at that and say, well, Bill hallucinated it. He mixed up his details. It's all fake. The subconscious mind just threw random images together.
But Seth doesn't say that. He actually uses this error to explain how our brains construct reality.
This is the crucial insight of the whole episode. Seth says, the cigarette was your own construction.
Let's unpack that. Your own construction. This sounds almost like he is blaming Bill for seeing it wrong.
Not blaming, but explaining the mechanism behind it. He explains that on a deep inner level, Bill realized that Jane Ruburt was present. Even though she wasn't visible to his physical eyes, his psychic senses picked up her signature.
Like recognizing a friend's perfume in a dark room. You just know they're there.
Right. And part of her signature, for Bill, is cigarette smoking. He deeply associates Jane with cigarettes.
So his brain is receiving two signals simultaneously. Signal A, Seth is here as the guide. Signal B, Jane is here as the projector.
Right, but his visual cortex, or the projection mechanism that creates the hallucination or apparition, is trying to make sense of it all. He sees Seth, but he feels Jane. So what does his mind do? It edits the image. It literally puts a cigarette in Seth's hand.
That is so brilliant. It's like dream logic bleeding right into the waking world. The cigarette isn't a physical object, it's a symbol. It stands in for the invisible Jane.
Precisely. Seth says, you constructed the idea of the cigarette, you see. It represents the inner realization that the cigarette-smoking Ruburt was there but not present.
So when we see a ghost or an apparition or even a UFO, we aren't necessarily seeing the objective thing. We are seeing a translation.
We are seeing a collaborative construction. We fill in the blanks. The energy is real, the presence is real, but the costume, the props, those are very often supplied by the observer's own library of symbols.
It totally reframes ghost hunting for you. You're not just looking for evidence of the dead, you're looking at a mirror of the observer's mind.
It creates a much more complex interaction. It means you can't trust your eyes 100%, but you can trust the underlying data if you know how to decode the symbols. Bill saw a contradiction, Seth with a cigarette, but that contradiction was actually the proof that both entities were there.
It's Sherlock Holmes stuff. The case of the misplaced cigarette. The clue that reveals the truth is the very thing that doesn't fit.
And that requires critical thinking, which Seth is always pushing for. Don't just accept the vision blindly. Analyze the components. Why a cigarette? Why a cigar? What does it actually mean to you?
It's like your brain is a police sketch artist. It's taking the description from the psychic sense and drawing a picture, but sometimes it adds a mustache where there shouldn't be one because it thinks, well, guys like this usually have mustaches.
That is a perfect analogy. The sketch artist in your brain is trying to be helpful. It's trying to make a coherent image out of disparate data points. I feel Seth, cigar man. I feel Jane, cigarette woman. The brain goes, okay, here is Seth holding a cigarette. It's a compromise.
So the key takeaway here is that even in genuine paranormal experiences, there is a layer of psychological projection.
Always. Seth teaches that we create our reality, quite literally. Even when we are perceiving something external, we are processing it through our internal machinery.
Speaking of internal machinery and analyzing components, we need to move to the third part of this session. And this is where the vibe shifts dramatically from interesting mechanics to chilling prophecy.
The prophecy regarding Dr. Instream.
This isn't just a vague, dark clouds are on the horizon kind of prediction. This is hyper-specific. Seth mentions Dr. Instream, who we know from the intro was someone Jane had made a tape for.
And remember, earlier in the very same evening, they were listening to a tape for him. So he was actively on their minds. The connection was open.
And Seth says, casually, Instream is due to join me soon, February at the latest.
Join me. It's a euphemism for death, for crossing over to the non-physical realm. But note the lack of drama there. He doesn't say tragically pass away. He says, join me, like they're meeting for coffee.
But he gives a cause, a very specific medical cause.
An excitement of the heart.
The transcript notes that Jane, while channeling this, placed her right hand over her own heart and repeated it several times, an excitement of the heart.
It's a poetic but medically specific description. He's predicting a cardiac event, and he frames it within a strict timeline. February at the latest. Remember, this is June 1967, so he's giving a roughly 6 to 8 month window.
But he doesn't stop there. He gives details to be verified later. He mentions, quote, 5 to 7 levels, which is a bit cryptic, but then he gets into names and locations.
Right. He says Dr. Instream is currently living in a town beginning with the letter A.
Which is a verifiable fact.
And then he starts struggling to pull a specific name. He says Dr. Brownlin, Allen Brown. He finally clarifies, Allen Brown, the doctor.
And he predicts where the obituary or the write-up about him will appear, the International Journal of Parapsychology.
That is a very specific publication. It's not the New York Times. It's a niche academic journal.
It is. And what strikes me here is the tone of the whole thing. We talked about the humor of the lettuce and the intellectual puzzle of the cigarette. But here, discussing the death of a colleague and a friend, the tone it's incredibly calm.
That's characteristic of Seth. To him, death isn't a tragedy or an end. It's just a transition. He says, Instream will, quote, speak to you, but not as he would like to speak.
That's a haunting phrase, honestly. Not as he would like to speak. What do you think that means in this context?
It implies communication after death, but perhaps limited communication. Maybe through a medium, maybe through signs. But it won't be the same as sitting down and having a chat. It acknowledges the barrier between the states. It acknowledges the frustration, perhaps, of the dead trying to reach the living.
It's so matter of fact, he's going to move to my neighborhood in February. Watch for the article in the journal.
It connects back to the lettuce incident in a weird way. The physical world eating lettuce, having a heart attack, is intimately tied to the non-physical. The lettuce blocks the psychic data. The heart attack releases the consciousness into the psychic data. It's all one continuous system.
And for you listening, this is the so what moment. Why does this matter to us? It matters because it suggests a universe where information is available completely outside of time. Seth knows about the lettuce habit from the past, Joannie's childhood. He knows about the heart attack in the future, next February.
It suggests the spacious present, which is a concept Seth elaborates on heavily in later books. All these events, the childhood habit, the current session, the future death, are accessible if you have the right perspective, if you aren't overstimulated without understanding.
Exactly, if you aren't stuck in the static.
And speaking of future events, the session wraps up with a flurry of business items. It's like a meeting agenda. Item 1, lettuce. Item 2, ghost mechanics. Item 3, death prediction. Item 4, travel advisory.
Ah, yes, the SAG warning.
Right. Bill is about to go on a tour of the country, and Seth gives him a code, SAG.
There is an SAG. If you meet someone with these letters significantly in their name, avoid them.
Sounds like a classic oracle warning from a myth. Beware the Ides of March. Beware the SAG.
It makes you wonder, was it someone's initials? A nickname? Sagamore? Sage?
We don't really know from the specific text, but the instruction is binary. Avoid them. No nuance there. Just steer clear.
It's interesting that he specifies significantly in their name, not just hidden in the middle name.
Right. Prominent. A warning signal right up front.
And he also mentions Wisconsin material will develop shortly involving Ruburt's work. Just a little breadcrumb for the future.
And then the session ends. 12:12 a.m. Ruburt is finished.
Bam! Back to reality. Joanie is probably thinking about lettuce. Bill is thinking about cigarettes and SAG. And Rob is probably just trying to massage his hand from writing so incredibly fast.
And we, the readers, are left with this incredible slice of life.
It's the range that gets me every time. If you only read the lettuce part, you'd think Seth was a dietary coach. If you only read the Instream part, you'd think he was a doomsayer. If you only read the cigarette part, he's a metaphysician.
But he's all of them. And that's the point. A fully integrated consciousness deals with all of reality. The snacks, the ghosts, and the transitions. They aren't separate categories to a being like Seth.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
I think it means paying attention to your own lettuce. What habits are blocking your clarity? And it means questioning your own cigarettes. When you see something, are you seeing the raw data, or are you seeing a symbol your mind constructed?
And maybe checking if anyone named SAG tries to friend you on social media.
Always good advice. But in seriousness, it encourages us to look at the world with a double vision. Yeah. To see the physical object, but also look for the energetic reality behind it.
Before we wrap up, we have to give credit where credit is due. This material comes from the Seth Material, published by the New Awareness Network. These sessions are a goldmine.
They really are. And if this deep dive sparked your curiosity, and I genuinely hope it did, you shouldn't just take our word for it. You should go straight to the source.
Absolutely. You can find these books, specifically the early sessions, at sethcenter.com/the early sessions. We highly encourage you to go there, buy the books, and support the preservation of this material. It's dense, it's wild, and it's completely worth your time.
There's always more to find. Every time you read it, you see something different.
Maybe you'll find your own lettuce warning.
Or a missing cigar.
Exactly. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the archives. Keep your eyes open, watch your snacks, and we'll see you in the next session.
Good evening.
You know, before we truly sign off, I want to circle back to something we touched on but didn't fully explore. The 527 levels comment regarding Dr. Instream.
Oh, right, that. Yes. It's one of those cryptic numerological references Seth drops occasionally.
527 levels, it sounds like a coordinate system? Or maybe a frequency?
In the Seth cosmology, reality is layered. It's not just here and there, or alive and dead. There are gradations of consciousness. When he says Instream will transition through 527 levels, he might be describing the specific intensity or the address of the consciousness Instream is moving into.
It reminds me of how a radio dial works. You tune from 98.6 to 101.5. You don't cease to exist between the stations. You're just moving up the band.
That's a great analogy. And the fact that Seth is so precise about it, 527, implies that this isn't a chaotic process. Dying isn't just falling into a void. It's a navigational event. You are going somewhere specific.
And that connects to the excitement of the heart. If the heart is the engine that keeps you anchored here, an excitement and overload is what breaks the tether.
It's interesting he uses the word excitement. Usually, we associate excitement with positive things. I'm excited for the party. But electrically, excitement is just a state of high energy. A heart in fibrillation is excited. It's vibrating too fast to function as a pump.
Which brings us right back to the lettuce.
It does.
Overstimulation. Excitement. There's a profound theme here of energy management. Joanie's system was overstimulated by lettuce, blocking her perception. Instream's heart is going to be overstimulated, quote, excited, causing his transition.
That is a brilliant connection. I hadn't put those two together directly. The theme of the entire session is energy regulation. If you can't regulate the stimulation like the lettuce, you get static. If the stimulation gets too high, like the heart excitement, the system fails, or rather, the consciousness ejects.
So in a way, Seth is teaching Energy Management 101, don't short-circuit your system.
And know your limits. Joanie's limit was ahead of lettuce. Instream's limit is his heart condition.
It makes the SAG warning even more interesting in that light. Avoid them. Why? Maybe because that person, whoever they are, is a source of negative stimulation.
A drain or a spike in energy that Bill, in his current state, shouldn't deal with while touring.
It's all about maintaining the integrity of the vessel. We are these sensitive instruments walking around, picking up signals, projecting ghosts, eating vegetables, and we have to keep the machine calibrated.
And most of us are walking around with our dials spinning wildly, totally unaware of what's affecting us.
As there's the ultimate takeaway, awareness. Be aware of what you eat, who you meet, and what you see.
Because it's all data.
It is all data. Okay, now I really am finished, I promise.
Ruburt is finished.
Ruburt is finished. And so are we. Thanks for listening.